Joe Biden told Charlemagne the God, jokingly, that if you are even considering voting for Donald Trump, or more specifically, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to entrap him with lies, because that's what people will say. But what he really said was, if you can't tell the difference between he and Donald Trump by now, then you're not really black. So I have to call my mother, okay? Gotta call my mother. And I gotta get a DNA test. And also I'm gonna call my optometrist and ophthalmologist, because I'm gonna need some new glasses and possibly some LASIK eye surgery. And I need to, because you get checked. Well, I'm retired, right? I'm retired military. You're supposed to get checked for color blindness, and if you're colorblind, you're not supposed to be able to get into the military. But apparently I might be colorblind as well, because I looked at myself this morning, or that morning, I thought I was still black. My mom is black, and so I thought that counted for something, okay? But apparently, because I am one of those people who absolutely, I could tell the difference between Trump and Joe Biden, but it ain't the way he thinks it is. But either way, the audacity of the caucasity. Oh my God, bro, somebody sent me that clip first thing in the morning whenever it happened. And I didn't open it at first. Do you know why? Because I thought to myself, why is someone sending me some nonsense? Because I know it's Joe Biden, so it's like not totally unbelievable. But come on. I know he's not going to tell Charlemagne the God that, because like it's going to go viral. And that would be dumb. Yeah, so I underestimated the caucasity. Okay, I underestimated it, because then obviously that morning on Twitter I saw it again, and I just slapped myself in the forehead, which is why I'm wearing this headband so you don't see the hand mark. I slapped myself pretty hard. When he said this though, when I heard it, like, I actually wasn't all that surprised. Y'all have to remember, this is Joe Biden. Joe Biden can't remember when he's in 2020 or whether or not he's in 1940. Okay? So you got to remember, in 1940, a little bit before that, a little bit after, back in the day, in Joe Biden's day, before this world was the racial jungle that Joe Biden, rabbled against, that he just didn't want his kids to grow up in. Feel so bad for Joe Biden and his daughters. Anyway, but back in the day, see, white men were the ones who dictated who was black and who was not black. See, y'all don't know your history. Joe Biden wasn't being racist. He was just exercising his God-given right to tell black people whether or not they're black based on the way they choose to vote. Now, back in the day, if you wanted to vote, and your vote could diametrically sway the outcome of an election, then a lot of the times you were called black, even if you were super, super white, and you were kept from voting. It's a little bit different now, but same concept. No, actually, you still can be kept from voting depending on what district you're in. But it's the same concept, y'all. This isn't new for Joe Biden. He just had a memory lapse where he slips in and out of the 40s, which seems to be every day. Now, in all seriousness, I know that it sounds like a joke, and it is mostly a joke, but it's not really all that much a joke. You have to understand that systemically and institutionally, white people have actually exercised the privilege of dictating who is not black. They've done this with Italians, or I should say this, not necessarily who is not black, but who is not white. That's probably better to say. They've done this with Italians. They've done this with the Irish, right? They've even done this with Latinos and Hispanic groups in their own nations. Joe Biden felt okay saying that for the same reason that Joe Biden thinks he deserves which is somewhere he's pulling around 88% right now of the black vote, he thinks he deserves that despite being a literal segregationist. Why would he not think he could say that? Why would he think he would be held accountable for saying that? Is he not a segregationist? Was he not a segregationist before he made that statement? Did the Democratic Party still elevate him? Okay. Was he not a segregationist before that statement and still was receiving 88% of the black vote, predictably anyway? Okay. Is he still celebrated by, not, well, I won't even say celebrated, but tolerated by Barack Obama and associated with the first black president, and was even attached to the first black president specifically because of his segregationist past to balance out the ticket? Okay, that was before he said that statement. Okay, right. Just want to make sure. Did he not win like 90-something% of the black vote prior to making that statement in the Democratic primary? Right? They just gave him the vote. I know this is the election rigging and all that good stuff. That's a different topic. But for the sake of the argument, let's just assume that he did, because he was going to still win a good portion of it. Now it's still too damn much. So why? You were talking, listen, everybody, you're literally looking at the Barry Goldwater of the Democratic Party. For those of you who don't know, Barry Goldwater ran on bringing back segregation, or maintaining it, I should say. Hillary Clinton was a Goldwater girl. This is a big thing in 2016 everybody knows about. But this is who Joe Biden is. This is literally the equivalent of Barry Goldwater making the decision, you know what? I think I want to be president, so I'm not racist anymore, everybody. Well, do you apologize for the policies that you tried to pass? No, not really. Well, do you apologize for the policy that was literally targeting black people? No, not really. Do you apologize for any of the racist things you've ever done? Listen, that's neither here nor there. The Democratic Party says I'm not racist and I'm the best candidate to beat Donald Trump, and therefore it's all good. But here's the saddest part. Black people still gonna vote for him. I saw older black people making excuses for him all up and down Facebook. I had to go to Facebook because I don't go to Twitter because I don't trust, there's a bunch of bots on there. You know, they astroturf the hell out of both Facebook and Twitter, but it's easier for me to tell if you're a bot on Facebook. And basically, the older black people are like, oh man, y'all are being too sensitive. Man, Trump is crazy. And I always ask them, you know what? That's interesting that y'all say that. So let's put this theory to the test. What is the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Always silence, insults, or some emotional reactionism that doesn't really give me any policy differences between the two. And then you've even gotten to the point where some people are trying to justify or defend the 94 crime bill because they know that is coming. That attack, I mean, it's already came. Trump has already released an ad about it. It was several ads, actually. But more recently, he released a really impactful ad about Joe Biden's treatment of black people and targeting of black people via the 94 crime bill. So they know it's coming. And people have even, because they have literally, they don't know the difference between Biden and Trump. You can make an argument for the Supreme Court. It's not a good argument. I can destroy it in a second. But either way, you can make an argument for the Supreme Court. But that's not an argument for Joe Biden. That's an argument for the Supreme Court. You can even make an argument for the administration, which would be the horrible argument to make considering that Citigroup picked Obama's administration and Obama's brain was perfectly intact. So who do you think is going to be running Joe Biden's administration? So you're not, but even in that case, you wouldn't be making an argument for Biden. You'd be making an argument for his administration. You could even say that you need him to galvanize people in order to go and vote Democrats into the House and the Senate. And that's not making an argument for Biden. That's making an argument for Congress. The only argument that is ever made for Biden is actually made for someone else and against Trump, or usually both. But no one can actually make an argument defending Joe Biden. And for black people, I just gotta say, like, I'm very, very tolerant of the Obama love. I really am. I'm too damn tolerant of the Obama love, but I get how it could feel being 55, 60, 65 years old, and you never thought you were going to see a black president in your damn lifetime, and you finally get one, so you might be a little bit starry-eyed. I understand it. I really do. I don't agree with it. Obviously, you know how I feel about Obama, but I understand it. But the whole reason you were worried that you were never going to get your first Obama is because of people like the first Joe Bidens. People like Joe Biden, people like Hillary Clinton, people like Lyndon B. Johnson. Yeah, I know what he signed, but we know who Lyndon B. Johnson was. You know who Joe Biden is, because it's not the same. Maybe months ago you might not have been as privy to what Joe Biden was known for, which is why he's continued to take losses up until this point, and he's going to take another one in November. You might not have known because you've been starry-eyed over Obama, and that's what you associated Barack Obama's or Joe Biden with, right? You associated him with the first black president. Okay, cool. That has changed. Clearly, he's shown who he is. His comments are out there. There's no excuse for you to not know what the 94 crime bill is, what it does, and most importantly, the clear intentionality behind it. And you don't have to guess, because their words, their speeches, their comments, they're all out there. They knew who they were targeting. The demographic who can't afford lawyers so it won't be a burden on the system to get them in jail. The demographic who can't afford to argue with cops because it's either you go to jail or you're going to get shot, one of the two. They knew they were targeting. Joe Biden was in charge, was one of the leaders behind this. So you have no excuse. And at this point, it's embarrassing. You're arguing for crumbs, or you're one of the bourgeoisie black people who this election doesn't really affect you either way. But you can't go up to your liberal, because if you're a bourgeoisie black person, unless you're in specific pockets of the country, you're generally hanging out with other elitist liberal white people. And you don't want to be that elitist black person who is like, y'all know Joe Biden is just as bad, right? But that's embarrassing. That is despicable, honestly. If you know better, you should absolutely be doing better. And I know we want to laugh and point out the obvious that Joe Biden is being Joe Biden, but that's the funniest part, right? We're pointing out the obvious. Joe Biden is just being Joe Biden. But how far do you think his black vote will dip? Not far enough. I mean, once again, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this over and over again, but I will anyway. Literal segregationist. I tried, actually, I believe it or not, I tried to find out if Trump himself was a net negative for the black community in any significant or unique way, and the facts show that he wasn't. Now, he was a net negative for the Arab and Muslim communities. He was a net negative for Central and South American community. Well, it depends on your perspective. He's had a lot of failed coup attempts, so I don't know if you consider that a net negative or just a push. But I feel like in this country itself, if we're not like including what's going on in their countries, he was a net negative for the Central and South American communities. However, for black people, because of his weird and incessant need to want to be accepted by us, don't ask me why, I can't explain it, but he hasn't been a net negative to the black community specifically. And that would be projection and gaslighting if I was going to tell you that he has been a net negative. It just is not true. Just like I wouldn't want someone to pretend as if like, so if somebody tried to pretend like what Joe Biden said yesterday or a couple of days ago was like, yeah, man, the white Latino community or the Arab community should be just as upset, because that's basically saying, he's saying that about all of us. If I'm not, no, that's not, no, it's specifically about us and our issues. And don't minimize it or try to conflate something that has nothing to do with you. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with you. But Trump's vitriol, for the most part, and his policies, for the most part, never really targeted black people. Joe Biden is, for the 50,000th time, a literal segregationist. And you don't have to wonder who he was targeting. Look at the majority population of private prisons from the, hell, you can really go before the 90s, but from the 90s, when Joe Biden was in office, up until this point. Over 90%, at one point close to 94, 95% black occupancy. When neighborhoods were over-policed, black neighborhoods and black communities. What drugs were criminalized? The drugs that were not associated with white people. Let me just put it like that. Remember when Cheech and Chong do a movie about marijuana? Oh, it's cool, it's hippies, it's da-da-da-da. Black people smoke marijuana or sell marijuana or engage in any type of marijuana-esque activities. It's seen as a gangster movie. It's it's portrayed differently. And we are treated differently by extension, and Joe Biden is a large reason that is. Not only was he a net negative on the black community for his entire career, but he's unapologetic about it. He's unapologetic about it. So what he said was not a surprise to me. And I know some people were considering it a gaffe. I know some people were like, oh, he was just joking. No, he was serious. He really feels like that. He really believed, like, he feels entitled to the phrase. I know that the right has co-opted it, but it is a thing. Being on the Democratic plantation. And I was talking to Garland Nixon about that this morning on Fault Lines. But being part of the Democratic plantation is a thing. And Lee Stranahan, who's actually the conservative, made a good point. He was like, Joe Biden is a literal cracker. In other words, if you have a group of slaves on the plantation and two slaves try to escape or two slaves try to get out of their work, you punish all of them, and you make an example out of those two slaves. Why? Because you don't get to choose when you do and do not leave the plantation. You don't get to choose whether or not I'm your favorite master. You know what? I don't like you, master. I think I'm gonna go explore other plantations. Really want to see my options here. I feel like I haven't been treated as an equitable partner in this cotton picking relationship. And that's not how it works. It's, oh, you forgot your place, boy. And you remind them. And the way you remind them has manifested differently over the years, right? We're going to explore like another example of how it manifests in 2020 later on in the show. But nonetheless, it is still a reminder. And what Joe Biden was trying to say, and what he meant, was that we will do our best to ensure that you are blacklisted from the black community if you even think of advocating for anyone who is not Joe Biden. Because this is a Democratic plantation and you don't get to choose whether or not you're a slave. Let me get to some of the super chats. Big Baby Zubas. I voted for John Kerry. Then my uncle said, you're not black, so you must be gay. The point being, only whites vote Republican, and I should too. Oh, I'm confused now. John Kerry is not Republican. I mean, okay, you know what I mean. He is what he is, but he's technically a Democrat. So I am confused. But there is that type of stigma in families about how you should and should not vote based off of your ethnic background. If you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa, don't forget to like the video and smash that subscribe button. Want access to members only live streams, behind the scenes footage, and other premium content? Well, you can endorse us on Rockfin Premium, become a patron through Patreon, or you can sign up for the MCSC Premium membership through YouTube. All the links are in the description below. But hey, more than anything else, always remember,
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Find your balance. Find your balance.
Always remember, more than anything else, find your balance.
peace.